Hello everyone, welcome to CryptoPi. In today's video, we will be talking about different years, about election, halving years, post-halving years, midterm years, and how do they affect the Bitcoin market. If you like the analysis, then do hit the subscribe button and show some support to the channel. Alright, so what you are looking at here in the chart is Bitcoin in the dollar pair on a monthly time frame. And the two lines which are here are the moving averages based on the custom indicator, which is here. The first one is 50-week moving average, and then the second one is 200-week moving average. So in this case, it's 200 month. That's why you don't see anything. But here, the yellow line would be, let's see which one is showing this one. Yeah, it's the 50-month moving average. But let's move this one to week, this time frame to week, so we can see 200-week moving average as well, which is very close to 50-month moving average. Well, yeah, makes sense in some way. All right. So what do we have here? We saw the top of Bitcoin in October, and since then the price has been going downwards. And in January, we see that, all right, we do have some positive price action. But if you go to the daily time frame, then the price action, we see in the last week what we saw, again, a small retracement in the price. Now, what do I mean by how do different years affect the Bitcoin market? So what I have marked here, so we have pre-election year, and here election, I mean US election, because that's one of the biggest market. And these are all the election years. What we have next is halving years, where Bitcoin rewards go half for miners, and it's the same year as the US election year. And then post-halving year and midterm year. 2026 is the midterm year. What usually happens in 2026 or in midterm years? These are all the midterm years which are marked. Going from the first mature cycle, I usually tend to ignore up until 2013. Also, 2013, I do not put a lot of thoughts on it because the market was still very new. But let's see, in 2013 was 2014, sorry. 2014 was the midterm year, and we saw market started going downwards. So basically it was the bear market. Same thing for 2018, 2022, and we don't know how 2026 will be, but if we just have to follow the pattern since the start of Bitcoin trading, one might assume that given what history has shown us, it's quite likely that market might trend downwards. Now I want to combine midterm year with pre-election year. I have marked all the pre-election year. This one's here, it should be written as pre. These are not the election year, but pre-election year. And what happens in pre-election year is basically when Bitcoin starts rallying again. Or at least we find the bottom up until the pre-election year. From 2014 till 2015, Bitcoin price went basically almost apart from this 3 months, and yeah, the first month, this 4 months, the whole year, it went down, and it did find its bottom, or the first bottom, in January, and the second one, it was maybe few dollars below the bottom which was found here. In this case, in this cycle from 2018 to 2019, again, the same thing happened for Bitcoin. It went from almost 19,000 all the way to 3,500, 3,600, and this was the bottom. If you look at the cycle or the year from 2022 till 1st of January 2023, we found the bottom in November of 2022, and that was at 13,000, not 13,000, but this was, the low was at 15,473. And what this chart basically tells me is whenever there is a midterm year, price continues to go down, and before the pre-election year really comes into picture, we usually find a bottom somewhere in this year. The green lines are basically the first month of pre-election year, so January. And for this particular cycle, purely based on what historical pattern is, I would have my bias that Bitcoin will find its bottom in this year. Now, what happens after pre-election year? That's when the halving years are. So up until halving year, so in this case, it was from 2023 to 2024. If I mark January here, we started seeing a bit of a rally. And then from 2024 up until post-halving year, and then again the midterm year. So the post-halving year would be 2025. And the fourth quarter over here of post-halving year is usually the bottom. This has been seen almost every time in this post-halving year. The fourth quarter are the ones where we find the top of Bitcoin. And once post-halving year is done, we are back in the midterm year and back into the bear market of Bitcoin. To me, thinking that we are in a Bitcoin super cycle does not hold a lot of value, because the idea of Bitcoin super cycle is that there are lots of banks, institutions, companies who have entered the Bitcoin market. However, it was true also in this cycle, in 2021 cycle. And to a certain degree, there were also news going on that institution and bank adoption and everything will also happen in this time, in 2018. So I've heard almost similar news in 2018. I heard almost similar institution adoption in 2021. And when I started seeing the same thing on social media, that people are promoting super cycle, Bitcoin super cycle, that 4-year cycle does not exist anymore, because institutions are investing money in Bitcoin. They have started buying Bitcoin, creating ETFs and so on. To me, it sounds like, all right, we are pushing a narrative of bullish exactly when Bitcoin is in oversold territory. One more thing which I discussed in the last video was, or in a couple of previous videos, were the accumulation line and distribution line. So distribution lines were the ones where we had called that, all right, after price crosses the distribution line, the bear market begins. And for this cycle, it was in the third week of October. That was October 22nd or October 23rd. You can check it out if you are interested in the analysis from October. You can check out the previous video over here. Will 3 years of uptrend end on 23rd October? This is where I shared my views on that Bitcoin will hit its top in this month, or it will start, the price will start going down after 23rd of October. Though we saw a short rally, but then after a few days of rally, we already started seeing Bitcoin price going down. Now, this distribution lines basically tell us that after the price is crossed, Bitcoin is less likely to make another high. And what accumulation lines tell us is, once the price crosses the accumulation line, it's a good time to basically start accumulating Bitcoin. Though it's not the lowest, so we have to keep in mind that these lines do not tell that low of the Bitcoin is in for the new cycle, but it just tells that there has been a sufficient amount of time has been passed, Bitcoin has been in downtrend, and now would be time to start accumulating, start DCAing Bitcoin. Over here, the price passed accumulation also in October 2022. We did see price go lower, but then this was the low of the cycle, and that was 15,473. And since then, we started seeing price going upwards. Now, if I combine this accumulation line with pre-election year, so over here in the cycle, in this cycle where the bottom was in 2015, pre-election year and the accumulation line. So you see this one is pre-election year, and this one is accumulation line. They coincide in the month of January, but they both tell us that, all right, now we have time where, now it is the time where Bitcoin is almost close to the bottom. What I saw for this cycle in 2018, 2019, between these two lines, the Bitcoin price is usually very close to the bottom. In this case, it was the bottom at $3,124, or perhaps here in this month it was 3,300, and here it was 3,000. So yeah, in between these two lines we find the bottom of Bitcoin. For the cycle of 2022, 2023, we found the bottom again between these two lines, and here it was again at the low of 15,473. Based on this, just the lines, there is no other first derivative, second derivative. There is not much analysis here. It's purely finding new patterns based on elections, and elections are well defined. Halving years are well defined. Midterm years are well defined, and elections, halving, midterm year, all of this basically affect the market and how investors, they want some kind of stability in the government. And when we have midterm years, when we have election years, there are a lot of unknowns. What will be the idea of how the new government will plan the future of the country? And due to this kind of uncertainty in various years, we do see fluctuation or volatility in the market. And over here, for the upcoming year, so that is, for me, the accumulation line here is in September, and that's pre-election year, which is 2027. So we should somehow see some accumulation zone or some bottom forming, just like we have seen in previous years over this one, which was at 15,000, over here, which was around 3,000, and over here, which was around 300, 200, 300. My guess would be somewhere around here. Now, why do I say this? Because if I combine it with the idea of order block, we have your order block here, there is a break of structure, and usually price tends to go down to the break of structure or somewhere in the fair value gap. So I would maybe drop down to one level below for better clarity. So we see here is the order block, this one, because this order block started the rally, which had this break of structure, and it created a fair value gap over here. So to me, if the price comes somewhere in this zone, I would add some buffer here as well, because since the market is slightly more mature, that's why we have diminishing returns. Perhaps we would have diminishing drawdowns as well. So perhaps when it is already in this region, to me, it would be a good time for seeing that Bitcoin price has bottomed out or is very close to the bottom. And if price is in this area, in this particular, in between these two lines, and it is at this price action somewhere here, that would indicate to me that that is the time to accumulate Bitcoin for the next cycle. One more thing which would help is the RSI strength. And we see that RSI strength drops dramatically, or it stays at the bottom, if you don't want to say dramatically, but here we saw the strength dropping dramatically. Here it stayed sideways, so there was not much bullish momentum here. And if RSI is bottoming out, which usually happens below 40, that would be another signal, another confluence, which would tell me that we are very close to the bottom. Yeah, so this would be all. We have different elections, different years indicating something in regards to Bitcoin price. We have RSI indicating something. We have order block. We have break of structure. There are multiple confluences, and if all this indication, they come together and they align, and it tells us, all right, Bitcoin has bottomed, that would be the time to accumulate. I think that would be all for today's video. If you like the content, then do hit the subscribe button. I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.